Hey guys, tonight we're diving headfirst into a place where pain had a job title, where screaming was considered an acceptable soundtrack, and where due process usually meant, do you process pain well? Welcome to the medieval torture chamber, a stone-clad monument to mankind's most disturbingly creative side. You won't find ergonomic chairs here, just splinters, shackles, and a lot of really bad energy. And you're not even guilty. You just said the wrong thing to the wrong monk on the wrong Monday. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to a cold stone floor and the distant echo of dripping water. It's not quite morning, not quite night, but it's definitely unpleasant. You're in a cell small, damp, and aromatic in a way that says centuries of regret. No one's told you why you're here, only that the Inquisitor will see you shortly. That's never good. People rarely come back from seeing the Inquisitor with a high five and a fruit basket. Your mind races. What did you do? Maybe it was that sarcastic comment about the bishop's hat. Or maybe it was because you sneezed during mass and someone mistook it for a demonic manifestation. Medieval justice doesn't need much, sometimes. Just being alive and nearby when a goat coughs is enough. You try to remember how it all began. You were having barley soup because of course you were. That's all anyone eats. And suddenly two men in robes showed up. They didn't knock, they didn't smile. They just muttered something about suspicion of impure thought and carted you off like a sack of haunted potatoes. The irony, you still don't know what you're being accused of. But that doesn't matter in the Middle Ages. You've been invited to answer the question. Sounds philosophical. Right, it's not. It's code for how long until you scream something that sounds like a confession. See, in this world, torture isn't the last resort, it's the main course, trial by ordeal, they call it, if you die. Well, you were guilty, if you survive, also guilty, but now you're fun to interrogate. And if you pass out during questioning, that's called resisting, which earns you extra time on the rack. Congratulations. A gaoler shuffles by your cell and drops a bowl of something. It wobbles, it steams, it smells faintly of despair and weak onions. You consider not eating it, but realise you might need the energy later for screaming. Then you hear it. Canes somewhere down the corridor, metal dragging across stone. It's not footsteps you hear. First, it's the sound of a man who knows how to make an entrance. The Inquisitor is coming, and he's brought a friend a torch. As he approaches, you notice his robe is a little too clean, his eyes a little too delighted. He doesn't look like someone interested in your soul. He looks like someone who collects antique thumbs and considers them conversation starters. He doesn't sit, he just peers into your cell and asks one question. Do you wish to confess before we begin? Begin what you don't ask. You just nod shakily. Maybe if you play along, you'll get out early. You'll be the one who fooled the system. You'll write a book. How to Avoid the Rack, a survival guide. It'll sell 7 copies in a tavern and be banned by morning. But the Inquisitor isn't smiling. He's waiting. So you blurt something. Anything I lied about fasting during Lent, you say. And I once stole a chicken, maybe. He doesn't blink. That's not what we're here for, he says. You try again. I had impure thoughts about bread. Still nothing. Just silence. Then he unlocks your cell and gestures down the hall. That's when you realise this is the polite part. The walk to the chamber isn't long, but it feels eternal. The torches flicker, casting shadows that look suspiciously like crucifixes made of regret. You pass a few empty rooms, except they're not empty. There are stains on the walls, deep grooves in the stone floor, a bucket with something floating in it that you hope is soup, but no isn't. And then you arrive. The door opens, groaning like it too. disapproves of your life choices. Inside, the room is a museum of discomfort. Ropes, pulleys, iron things with pointy bits in the corner. A rack, its wooden frame gleaming faintly with oil, and, you suspect, old confessions. The chamber is colder than your cell. It doesn't need to be. But someone decided ambience mattered. Even the air smells institutional, like burnt hair, blood, and candle wax. Your mind tries to rationalise. Maybe it's all a misunderstanding. Maybe they'll just ask you some questions over a polite mug of goat's milk and let you go with a stern warning. Nope. They tie your hands, then your feet, not aggressively, almost professionally. It's a setup, not a struggle. That's when you realise they've done this before, often. And just before the questions start, a scribe enters. Yes, a scribe. Because every moan, every half-coherent "I didn't do it" will be carefully written down with neat little ink strokes, in case someone ever needs to know the exact vowel you wailed when your shoulder dislocated. They don't begin with pain, they begin with silence. You're just hanging there, slightly elevated, arms stretched, not quite hurting yet, but definitely uncomfortable. Then they start asking. The wrong answers don't get you hurt right away, they just get you adjusted, like a medieval chiropractor who hates you. And the questions, they're vague. Do you believe in the true church? Yes, you say. Which true church? They reply. See the trap. Then they lean in close, their breath warm and oniony, and whisper something like, "We can help you remember. It's better if you remember." The ropes tighten, your shoulders burn, your knees protest. You forget what the question was. You forget your name. You forget why you ever mocked Brother Nicholas's singing voice in the first place. And somewhere deep down, a very stupid part of you still thinks, maybe if I just say sorry. This is how it starts. Not with a scream, but with a silence so loud it deafens you. The rack is still waiting. The spikes haven't been used yet. The pair is resting nearby, looking oddly innocent, but you're already unravelling. And here's the funny thing. You're not special. This isn't a vendetta. You're not the first and won't be the last, because in this place, everyone breaks eventually, except one guy, reportedly. But historians still argue whether he survived or was just very good at fainting convincingly. So you hang there, stretched like a medieval yoga enthusiast with zero benefits, and wonder how much worse this can get. Spoiler, much worse, because in the next room, the tools are being prepared. They don't carry you into the chamber. That would imply mercy. They escort you with just enough dignity to remind you you're not dead yet, and just enough force to make sure you don't start getting ideas. Your feet drag. The cold stone floor beneath them feels like it's absorbing your warmth on purpose. Like the tower itself is hungry. And maybe it is. You've heard the rumours. Everyone has. The tower drinks its fill, they say. Usually while looking way too satisfied with themselves for someone holding a mop and a pail. You don't know exactly what to expect. No one ever really does. What you do know is that it won't be pleasant, and it probably won't be brief. The hall narrows as you're led deeper underground, away from the sounds of life, laughter, livestock, late night stew. Down here, all you hear is the echo of your own thoughts, and those aren't being helpful right now. Then the door creaks open. There it is, the chamber, the medieval equivalent of a 5-star pain resort, just without the buffet and continental breakfast. It doesn't smell like death, not exactly. It smells older than death, like dust, mould, smoke, and something metallic that you just know has seen too many femurs. It's a big room, but not wide enough to feel comfortable. The ceiling is low enough to make tall men duck and short men anxious. There's one small window, barely bigger than your palm, and it's not there for you. It's there so the torturers can keep track of whether it's morning or still time to keep working. And speaking of workers, 2 of them are already there, waiting. Not guards, not monks, just two regular-looking guys in brown tunics, casually oiling a collection of devices that appear to have been designed by someone who both hated humanity and really liked gears. One of them nods at you like you're a package he's been expecting all week. The other one grins. The main feature of the room, a chair. Let's clarify, this is not the kind of chair you want to sit in. There's no cushion, no armrests, no lumbar support. What it does have are iron straps at the legs and arms, and small holes in the seat. You don't need to be an engineer to understand what that's for. Something gets tied down, and something else drains. They call it the interrogation chair, which is a little like calling a guillotine a bad haircut facilitator. You don't even want to guess how many people have sat in it before you. Based on the stains, the number is somewhere between a lot and please don't count. They don't put you in the chair just yet. First, you get the tour, or what passes for one, the older torturer. Let's call him Walter, because Walter sounds like someone who'd enjoy this far too much gestures to the wall. There's a series of metal implements hanging like a culinary set from hell. Hooks, screws, prongs, and one device that looks suspiciously like an egg whisk had a meltdown. Walter begins naming them, not because you asked, but because he enjoys the look on people's faces when they realise that each of these things has a name, a function, and a disturbingly rich backstory. This one, he says, tapping something that looks like a spiral corkscrew, is for extractions. You don't ask what's being extracted. Then he points to something you really wish you hadn't seen. It's a metal collar with inward-facing spikes. He calls it the heretic's necklace. Charming. According to Walter, it doesn't kill you. It just stops you from moving, or swallowing, or existing in peace. And that right there is the medieval genius. They weren't trying to kill you quickly. They wanted you alive, cooperative, which in this context means willing to say literally anything to make it stop. Eventually, they do gesture to the chair. You sit, not willingly, but not really with an alternative. The straps go on, tight, one around each ankle, each wrist, one across your chest. They don't tell you what's coming. They just look at you, waiting. The Inquisitor returns. He doesn't speak right away. He just paces, slowly, like a teacher waiting for you to admit you didn't read the assigned parchment. Then softly, he asks, "Why did you speak against the bishop's decree?" You blink, you didn't. Or maybe you did, honestly, at this point. Even silence could be misinterpreted. You shake your head. He sighs, he hates that answer. Walter steps forward with a device that looks like a set of iron pliers. But fancier, it's been heated. You can tell because he's using tongs. He doesn't use it on you yet. Just holds it up. Lets you smell it. Lets you know it's real. And now you begin to understand the rhythm of the chamber. It's not constant pain. It's anticipation, followed by relief, followed by more anticipation. It's a psychological symphony. And unfortunately, you're the cello. The chair itself isn't the main act. It's just where you wait while they bring out their feature presentation, the tools. There's one in particular that catches your eye. A wooden board with notches along the sides, and a rope attached at either end. It looks suspiciously like an unfinished bed frame. It's not. It's a stretching table. Cousin to the rack, the difference. The rack was for high-end guests. This one's more economical, before you can fully process that. They bring out something called the thumb screw. Sounds quaint, right? It's not. It's a small device, almost delicate looking, that clamps around your fingers and, well, encourages honesty, slowly, methodically, while maintaining eye contact. Walter applies it gently. He doesn't even flinch. He tightens it with the care of a gardener tending roses. You feel your knuckle shift, then crack, then scream. And that scream, it echoes, not just in the room, but in your head. It drowns out everything else, the torchlight, the metal clanking, the smell of burning oil. For a moment, you are pain, and pain is you. Then silence again. You're panting, sweating, crying maybe, though it's hard to tell what's sweat and what's tears. The scribe is still writing, casually dipping his quill. You think about asking what he's writing, then decide you don't want to know. They ask the question again. Same tone, same expectation. You still don't answer. Now they bring out the boot. It's not footwear. It's a wooden box that encases your leg and then gets filled with wedges, then hammers, slowly, deliberately, like they're stuffing a turkey made of tibia. The Inquisitor watches with something that might be interest, might be boredom. It's hard to tell with men like him. Maybe he's thinking about lunch. But just as Walter raises the hammer again, you blurt something. Anything. A name. A sentence. A plea. You don't even know what it means. You just need the pressure to stop. They pause. Walter looks to the Inquisitor. A nod. The boot comes off. Relief floods through you until you realise what that means. It worked. They're getting closer, which means they're not done, because you haven't even seen the worst of it yet. You haven't been introduced to the most infamous guest in the entire chamber. She's waiting, she's cold, she's got spikes in all the wrong places. She's called the Iron Maiden. They don't announce her like a queen, but she carries the room like one anyway. The moment they wheel her in, everything goes quiet well. As quiet as a torture chamber full of scorched flesh and bad decisions can be. Even Walter lowers his voice when he gestures to her. There she is, he whispers. With the tone of a man introducing a guest of honour at a particularly gruesome dinner party, the Maiden. But don't let the name fool you. She's not young, she's not gentle, and she's definitely not here to offer you tea and sympathy. The Iron Maiden, despite sounding like the lead singer of a medieval metal band, is a hollow statue roughly human-shaped, roughly human-sized, and filled with anything but love. She stands in the corner of the room, arms slightly outstretched, as if inviting you in for a hug, a rusty, claustrophobic, pointy hug. Her doors are open just wide enough for you to see what awaits inside a garden of spikes. Not long, not especially sharp, but perfectly arranged. They won't pierce your heart. That would be too fast. No, they're placed with precision, just enough to dig into shoulders, ribs, thighs, and stomach. Just enough to make every breath a negotiation. You're not even inside her yet, and you can already feel the panic rising. Your body knows something your mind hasn't caught up to. There is no good outcome involving that statue. Historians still argue whether the Iron Maiden was used as extensively in the Middle Ages as stories claim, or if it was later propaganda cooked up by Victorian-era torture enthusiasts with an unhealthy love for dramatics. But right now, in this candlelit room of dread and dampness, the debate doesn't matter. She's here, she's real, and she's not smiling. Walter takes a step back and tilts his head. First time he asks, and you hate that it sounds like a joke. You try to breathe evenly. You try not to shake. You try to remember your own name. The Inquisitor approaches, hands clasped behind his back like he's giving a university lecture on human suffering. You've proven resilient, he says, but resilience has its limits. The Maiden helps people find those limits. They don't put you in her right away, no. First they make you look at her, from all angles. They give you time to imagine. That's the real art of this place. It's not just pain. It's the anticipation of pain, the waiting, the build-up. They want your mind working against you long before the iron ever touches your skin. You're dragged towards her. The chains clink. The scribe scribbles. And somewhere in the distance, a raven caws like it too. Disapproves of your life choices. You stand face to face with her. Her surface is rough, pocked with rust and age. Her eyes are empty sockets, nothing but black voids, and yet you're certain she's watching you, judging you, welcoming you. You're placed inside, slowly, carefully. They don't shove, they guide. That's the most unsettling part. You're not being assaulted, you're being positioned, as if this is just another piece of medieval etiquette. Now please place your heretic here and close gently until lightly perforated. Once you're inside, they close the doors. Not all the way, not yet, just enough. You feel the first pricks as the spikes touch your skin. One brushes your collarbone, another nuzzles your left thigh, like a thorny house cat. It's not pain yet, it's pressure, discomfort, a promise. Then, click. The doors tighten just a little more, and the pain begins. It's subtle at first. The spikes aren't meant to impale, they're meant to threaten impalement. You move, they move deeper. You try to shift, they remind you who's in charge. And worst of all, there's no room to cry out properly. Your chest can't fully expand. Your voice catches. You become your own echo chamber. And yes, the irony is exquisite, buried alive inside a steel virgin, designed not to kill quickly, but to hold you at the edge, forever flirting with death, never letting you cross over. One curious fact, some Iron Maidens were rumoured to be fitted with tubes to drain blood slowly out the bottom, like some horrific kitchen sink. Again, historians debate whether this was real or just imagination gone wild. But in this moment, you swear you can hear a soft drip below you, real psychological. You're in no position to confirm. You begin to hallucinate. You see a cathedral made entirely of bones. You see the bishop from your childhood throwing a shoe at you during Mass. You see a loaf of bread with legs, mocking your sins. It is unclear whether the Iron Maiden is supposed to induce madness, but if it isn't, it's doing a stellar job anyway. The Inquisitor's voice breaks through the fog. He's outside. Still nothing to say, he asks gently. You manage to sound a gurgle, a wheeze, a syllable that might be a plea, or just your lungs giving up on grammar. The doors open slightly. Relief washes over you like a breeze through a graveyard. You inhale deeply. The spikes retract not far, just enough to make room for hope. And then they close again. That's the game. Hope, despair, repeat. Some victims lasted hours, some lasted days. The longest recorded survival in an Iron Maiden. No one knows. The records aren't exactly generous with their numbers. And most victims weren't in any state to file post-experience reviews. You're lucky, or maybe unlucky, they pull you out early. You collapse, you can't stand, you can barely breathe, but you're alive. Sort of. Walter mutters something about keeping the maiden polished. He's surprisingly attached to her. You suspect he names his tools like some people name their cats, if you asked. He'd probably tell you the thumbscrew's called Gerald. The Inquisitor isn't done. Of course not. You've passed one threshold, but they've got more. He leans close and says, "You still haven't told us what we need to know." Your eyes plead, your lungs protest, your body is soup. Then he smiles. Next, he says softly, "We introduce you to the pair." You wish he meant fruit. You wish this were some odd medieval health cleanse. You wish you'd just confessed to stealing that goat when you had the chance. But no, the pear awaits. And it's not going in your mouth for flavour. You're still reeling when they mention it. The pear. Sounds harmless. Doesn't it almost cute? Something you pack in a lunch sack or slice over porridge. But this pear isn't sweet. And it sure isn't soft. It doesn't grow on trees, it grows in workshops where metal meets madness. And it's not here to nourish you, it's here to make you beg for things you've never wanted in your life, like silence or amnesia. You've never seen a fruit so hated. Walter holds it up casually, like a merchant selling apples. And really, if you squint, it does look like a fruit, roughly pear-shaped, made of dull iron, and split into 4 petal-like segments. At the base, a screw mechanism connects to a handle, one that turns slowly, methodically, with the quiet menace of someone winding up a music box, full of nightmares. This one, Walter says, is versatile. He isn't lying. The pear could be inserted into the mouth, the rectum, or well, let's just say there are options. The exact placement depended on what you were accused of. Blasphemy in the mouth, sodomy elsewhere, heresy dealer's choice. There was a pear for every flavour of crime. You eye the device, hoping it's just for show, but Walter is already dipping it in oil, humming as he turns the crank gently, demonstrating how the petals bloom outward. It's a grotesque irony, something so floral, so delicate in motion, being used for one purpose: destruction from the inside out. The Inquisitor returns, and the mood shifts, confessions extracted under duress. He says quietly, are less reliable, but sometimes necessary. You want to scream that you'll talk, you'll say anything, you'll name everyone you've ever met, the baker, your aunt, the cat that lives behind the monastery. But your mouth is dry, your throat is cracked, the words catch like thorns. They don't need your consent, they never did. You're forced into position, your head tilted back, jaw pried open with something that looks suspiciously like an antique nutcracker. A strap binds your forehead, another under your chin. You're locked in place like a puppet being told it's about to sing. The pair approaches. This is not a fast process. They slide it in slowly, not out of kindness, but because it's the process, the ritual, the psychological assault. You feel the cold metal touch your tongue, then your palate. You try to gag, but the device filling your mouth makes that difficult. Your breath comes in huffs through your nose, your eyes water, and then they begin to crank. It starts as pressure and unfamiliar fullness, then resistance, then pain. The petals inside you open slowly, grinding against soft tissue, forcing your jaw wider, pressing against your cheeks and the roof of your mouth. It feels like your skull is blooming from the inside. Your teeth creak, your ears ring. You feel each twist of the crank in your spine. People talk about pain as fire or knives. This isn't like that. This is expansion, an unnatural, silent rupture, like being turned inside out in slow motion. The scribe is still writing. You manage a grunt, a single, strangled note of misery that echoes in the chamber, like a child's scream in a cathedral. The Inquisitor doesn't flinch. He's seen this before. He's waiting for words, coherent ones. They don't come. Walter pauses. Might be a bad fit, he murmurs, as if discussing shoes. Historians still argue whether the pair was actually used to kill, or merely maim, or whether it was a 16th century scare tactic taken a bit too seriously by later collectors of weird medieval weaponry. But no one disputes that the idea of it was enough to terrify prisoners into all kinds of confessions, which is the point. The Inquisitor steps closer. Still no confession, he asks, as if surprised. You try to nod. The device inside your mouth makes it more of a trembling seizure. They finally stop turning the crank, but they don't remove the pair. Not yet. They let it sit there reminding you. And that's when you realise something terrifying. There are more versions. You spot one on the table nearby, smaller, thinner, with longer petals. That one wasn't meant for the mouth. You shudder. They eventually remove the pair. Blood follows. You cough, you sob. You try to swallow and can't. Your tongue feels shredded. Your teeth loose. You won't be speaking clearly for days, maybe ever. And still they press on. The Inquisitor seems disappointed. Very well, he says, like a professor whose favourite student failed the midterm. Next comes the questioning again. This time, the questions are simpler. Did you attend the secret gathering? Who else was there? Did you speak the forbidden words? You tell them anything now. Anything. But your mouth is broken. You mumble names, most of them imaginary. You hope it's enough. You hope they're satisfied. They're not. Walter turns to another tool. You can't see it clearly, but you hear it, a faint rattling of chains, the soft squeal of turning metal. Then you're hoisted again, your arms above your head, feet barely touching the ground. It's the strappado, another crowd favourite. This time you're not even surprised. They let you hang for a moment, then, with no warning, they drop you, not far, just enough for the rope to jerk your shoulders with violent precision. Something tears inside you. You feel the shift ligaments detaching, bones grinding. You scream again. It's incoherent, animal. The scribe just keeps writing. They do it again. And again, by the third drop, your shoulder is no longer connected to your will. It swings loosely, a puppet's limb. At this point, you start to detach from your body. Your mind floats. You see a vision of yourself from the ceiling. You wonder what the weather is like outside. You wonder what the pigeons are doing. You wonder if the village still believes you're a heretic, or if someone finally realised this whole mess started because you questioned why the abbey's wine always smelled like fish. Eventually, they lower you. You slump against the ground. You can't stand. You can barely breathe. They pour water over your head, not to clean you, but to wake you. They want your eyes open for the next part, because you're not done. You've been stretched, gagged, dislocated, but you haven't yet been humiliated. And in the medieval world, public shame was its own form of torture. They drag you toward a set of doors. You don't resist. You couldn't if you tried. Through the slits in the door, you see light bright, blinding, daylight. And a crowd. They're waiting for the next act, waiting for you. The daylight hurts. It's not just the brightness, it's what it represents, out here. Beyond the chamber, the world feels too alive. Birds chirp, children cry. A woman is selling apples by the church steps. It's all so normal, so undeniably human. And yet you're being dragged into this scene like a sack of bad omens, with arms. You thought the worst was over. You thought the Iron Maiden and the pair had squeezed the last drop of cruelty from your captors. But no, now comes the real performance. Because in the Middle Ages, pain wasn't just personal, it was public programming. They parade you into the town square. You're still leaking blood, bruised, swollen in strange places, and walking only because two guards are holding you up like a mannequin in a shop window. You try to cover yourself with your arms, but one shoulder won't obey anymore. It hangs loose, a broken hinge of who you used to be. The people stare. At first it's quiet, curious. Children tug on sleeves. Vendors pause mid-haggle. A dog barks at you like it knows something's off. Then the murmurs start. A few folks whisper your name, others spit it, and some just look on, wide-eyed, as if wondering whether you're still a person or just part of the show, because that's what this is, torture as theatre. Walter calls it the spectacle, and you can tell. He loves this part. He's back in his element, smiling as he waves to the onlookers, like a circus barker, announcing the next act. Behold the heretic, bruised but not yet broken. Come one, come all, see what doubt earns you. You're placed on a raised wooden platform, not a stage, exactly but close. There are ropes, stocks, and a gallows in the corner, just in case the encore gets spicy. And you begin to understand the deeper cruelty of medieval justice. It wasn't enough to punish. You had to be seen being punished. The pain was part of it, but the shame, the exposure, the slow erosion of your dignity in front of your neighbours, that was the true masterpiece. Some spectators laugh, some flinch, a few look away. You catch one man, someone you once shared bread with, staring with pity. Then he quickly looks down. Pity isn't safe. Pity gets noticed. A boy throws something, rotten fruit. It hits your leg and slides off. A wet plop. The crowd laughs harder. One of the guards opens a scroll and begins to read your charges aloud. Heresy, blasphemy, slander against the church, possession of forbidden texts, speaking out during Mass, wearing sandals suspiciously similar to those worn by known dissenters. You lose track of the list somewhere between casting shadows with intent to deceive and smirking near a relic. Of course, some of these you didn't do, some didn't even exist until 5 minutes ago. But the crowd isn't here for truth, they're here for drama. It's not all improvised. Medieval towns were familiar with these routines. Torture was orchestrated like a play, each act designed to build suspense, horror, and catharsis. The church didn't just punish you, they set an example, a warning in flesh. Sometimes, the punishments were symbolic, wearing shame masks. For instance, iron visages with grotesque expressions. meant to exaggerate your moral deformity. One prisoner was forced to wear a pig's mask after being caught stealing grain. Others wore donkey ears for speaking out against the clergy. If you were lucky, the mask was only embarrassing. If you were unlucky, it came with spikes inside that tore at your face if you moved your jaw too much. You get a mask too. It's heavy, iron, fitted poorly. The inside digs into your temples. You can feel your own breath echoing inside the small cavity, magnifying every ragged inhale like a cruel soundtrack. Walter steps up with flair, gesturing toward the crowd. Confess. And perhaps your soul can still be saved, he shouts, playing his role like a medieval MC. You don't respond, partly because you can't, partly because you don't even know what's left to confess. So they proceed. The guard places your hands into the stocks, those twin blocks of wood that clamp around your wrists and neck. You've seen them used before, laughed along with the others when some drunkard was locked in for public intoxication. But this is different. There's no time limit, no reprieve, and no one's throwing tomatoes for fun anymore. The hours pass. People come and go. Children poke at your feet with sticks. Someone draws a crude symbol on your back in charcoal. A woman prays for your soul, loudly and dramatically, like she's auditioning for sainthood every now and then. Walter comes by to dab sweat from your brow with what might have once been a clean rag. Still not talking, he asks, more curious than cruel. But what could you say? You've forgotten how words work. You've forgotten what innocence even means. By dusk, the crowd thins, the vendors pack up, the laughter fades, and the mask is removed not because they've had mercy, but because there's one more scene to perform. The flogging. They tie you to a post, bare your back. You hear the whip before you feel it, a sharp whistle through the air, followed by a crack so precise it feels like punctuation. The pain blooms seconds later, late to the party, but eager to make up for lost time. 10 lashes, 20, the 30. By the 40th, your mind has checked out. You're floating again, watching yourself from above like some cursed guardian angel, unable to intervene. Historians still argue whether these public punishments were more about law or entertainment. Some say they kept order, others say they just fed bloodlust. But down here, pressed against splintered wood with your skin split open like old parchment, the distinction feels academic. Eventually, they cut the rope. You fall, you don't rise. They carry you back to the chamber, not gently, not roughly, just efficiently, like returning a tool to its shelf. You think maybe they're done, maybe you gave them enough, or maybe they've grown bored. It's hard to know which is worse. Walter wipes his hands. The Inquisitor doesn't speak. The scribe flips the page, as if preparing for the next act. And just when you think it might finally be over, the Inquisitor leans close and whispers, "Tomorrow we try something quieter." You don't ask what that means, you already know, because you've heard the rumours. You've heard of the drip. And water, apparently, can hurt more than whips. You would think that after being stretched, dislocated, pierced, publicly humiliated and flogged, the body would simply switch itself off, like a candle finally snuffed out. But no, the human body, yours, apparently is stubborn. It clings, even now. When your skin feels like parchment and your joints scream with every breath, it keeps going. And that's exactly what they're counting on. Because today comes the drip. They don't call it that, of course. They call it enhanced interrogation, which is just a fancy way of saying we've run out of large tools and are now weaponizing patience. But you know the stories, everyone does. A single drop of water, steady and endless, falling on the same spot of your skin for hours, days, weeks, if necessary. Doesn't sound like much, which is the point. You're led, or rather, dragged into a new room. This one is quiet. No fire, no screaming, just the soft, rhythmic plink of water meeting stone. The air is colder here, not because of a draft, but because it feels intentional, as if even the walls are holding their breath. Walter's not here. Strange, you kind of miss him. At least he made bad jokes. Instead, two monks in plain robes say nothing as they bind you to a long wooden bench. No straps this time, just a narrow board beneath your spine and ropes around your wrists and ankles. The ropes aren't tight, just enough to ensure that if you flinch, it's your skin that stretches, not the cord. Your head is tilted back over a block of stone. It feels unnatural, like your skull is balanced on the edge of a question you forgot how to ask. A small basin above you drips slowly, deliberately onto the centre of your forehead. Drip, drip, drip. It starts out cold, refreshing, even like a mountain spring kissed your brow. You try to steady your breathing. You imagine you're somewhere else outside the walls of this fortress, maybe lying in a field, the sky overhead, the sun warm. Drip, drip. 10 minutes pass, maybe 20. Time gets sticky in here. The drop continues. At first, it's just annoying. Then it becomes something worse, invasive. It lands in the same spot, over and over, like a tiny drummer tapping on your thoughts. It doesn't hurt, not exactly, but it does something stranger. It unravels your focus. You can't hold a single thought for more than a heartbeat. You begin to imagine patterns in the water. Words, messages, a rhythm, a warning. Your body doesn't scream this time, it whispers, panics, twitches. Your muscles tighten, trying to shift, but the ropes remind you who's boss. You can't wipe your forehead, can't move, can't speak. Drip, drip. They say this technique was rarely used, but when it was, it didn't rely on force, it relied on time. No blood, no bruises, just the slow erosion of mental stability. A medieval prelude to modern psychological warfare. The Inquisitor watches from the shadows. Sometimes, he says, truth hides under stillness. The body speaks when the mind falters. You want to say, I already confessed. I confessed to everything, including stealing Sister Agnes's cheese bread when I was 11. But your jaw is slack, your lips dry. The words don't come. Historians still debate whether this technique could truly drive someone mad, or if it was just one of many exaggerated tales passed down to scare peasants into obedience. But in this room, you're beginning to understand something terrifying. It doesn't need to be true to be effective. Your sense of self begins to dissolve. You start to believe the drop has weight, that it's burrowing into your skull, that it's changing shape mid-air. You imagine it's not water at all, but something living, some parasite sent by the church to eat your memories. Drip, drip. You name the drops. The first one is Gerald, then Margaret, then Paul. You lose track after 27. The silence in the room isn't peaceful, it's watchful. There are no screams to distract you, no chants, no prayers, just the water, just the quiet. And something else, a tickle in the back of your throat. You start to cough, just once, then again. The water's doing something strange. It's not just falling on your forehead. It's worming its way into your consciousness, breaking down the barrier between discomfort and delusion. The monks chant softly, finally breaking the silence, but it doesn't comfort you. Their words blend with the dripping, forming new patterns in your ears. Are they speaking Latin, or is it something older, something made of vowels and wind? You try to scream, you think you do, but your voice comes out in a sound you've never made before. A low, drawn-out wheeze like a dying bellows. It doesn't even echo. It just hangs in the air like regret. And still, drip, drip. You begin to weep, not loudly, just a slow leak from the corners of your eyes, like even your tears want to escape. The monks stop chanting. The Inquisitor steps forward again. This is the moment, he says. When most men meet themselves, the unfiltered self, the soul without armour. You try to remember your name. You fail. Instead, you remember the face of the girl you kissed behind the mill, the smell of your father's cloak, the shape of your mother's hands kneading dough. You cling to these things. They become your anchors. And yet, the drip keeps falling. Some victims lasted for hours, others broke in minutes. There are stories of nobles who endured the rack, but begged for mercy. Within 15 minutes of the drip, supposedly, one bishop wept and confessed to everything real and imaginary after just 8 drops. You believe it now, because time has stopped being a number. It's a sensation, an ache behind your eyes, a warmth crawling up your neck, a pressure in your chest like grief. And then something snaps. You don't hear it, you feel it, like a string pulled too tight, finally giving way. You scream again, but this time it's not out of pain, it's out of loss. You've lost, you don't know who you are anymore, only what they want you to be. So when the Inquisitor asks the next question, you nod, not because you believe it, but because it's easier, because the drop has emptied you. And when they finally unstrap you hours later, maybe days you don't stand, you don't thank them, you just blink into the dim candlelight and wait, because you know something now. This wasn't the end, it was the preparation. And tomorrow they bring in the rats. You sleep, if you can call it that, curled in the corner of the chamber like discarded laundry cold, damp and unravelling at the seams. No dreams come, just the echo of dripping water that somehow still lives in your skull. Phantom percussion, tapping behind your eyes. You open them to find Walter standing over you with a bowl of what might be food. It smells like boiled sadness and maybe turnip. He raises an eyebrow. Eat, you'll need your strength. That line again. You've heard it too many times now. It's never good news. Your limbs feel like they belong to someone else. You can't sit straight, so he helps, propping you up like an old puppet. The food burns your cracked lips. You chew, because your jaw remembers how. Then he says it. Today, we use the rats. You freeze, and despite everything, despite having survived spikes, whips, pears, and madness, you feel true, primal fear for the first time. The rats. It's not a myth. It's not something they whisper just to scare the new inmates. It's real. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. The method varies, but the message is always the same. Let a rat panic, and it will do whatever it takes to get free, including chew through you. They don't take you to the rack room. No fire pit, no blood-slick table, no grand ceremony. Just a quiet alcove with 3 stools, a brazier of glowing coals, and a large metal bucket, and a cage inside. The rats skitter, 4 of them, twitching, sniffing, clawing at the air like tiny, frantic burglars. They're not starved. That would make them weak. These ones are fed enough to stay strong, but denied just enough to stay desperate. The Inquisitor arrives, wearing a neutral expression, as if this is all part of a particularly dull sermon. You've confessed, he says, but we sense there's more. There's always more. Apparently, even if they have to invent it, even if they have to dig it out of your imagination, like gold from a mine that's already collapsed. Walter ties you down again, this time flat, on a long bench of stone, shirt removed. The cold kisses your bare stomach. The rat cage is placed beside you. And then comes the bucket. It's an ordinary thing, dented, worn, but it's the shape of your doom. They upend the rat cage over your midsection. Rats writhing as they're dumped against your belly. Before you can even flinch, the metal bucket is slammed over them. And then coals. The brazier glows. Walter lifts a pair of tongs, plucks one burning coal from the flames, and places it carefully on top of the overturned bucket. You feel the heat instantly, not on your skin, but radiating through the air, pressing down like a divine punishment. Inside the bucket, the rats feel it too. They panic, scratching, scrabbling, biting. Not at the metal. No, that would be pointless. They dig downward, into you. At first, it's just pressure, the scuttling of tiny claws, the press of small bodies. But then you feel the first nibble. Not sharp, just testing, a curious bite to see if this is really the way out. Then another, and another. You scream. Not because it hurts, though it does, but because something inside you knows. This is not pain for pain's sake. This is survival by subtraction. The rats don't hate you. They don't even notice you. You're just obstacle. They gnaw. And suddenly, the screams are not enough. You thrash ineffectively against ropes that mock you. You try to lift your hips, to shake the bucket off, but all it does is make the coals above it roll, searing the air hotter still. And the rats dig faster. Historians still argue whether this technique was used in medieval Europe, or whether it was a later horror imported from South America or Tudor England. Some claim it was a Spanish Inquisition specialty. Others say it was invented by desperate guards during famines. But you don't care, because for you, right now, it's true. Walter watches calmly. The Inquisitor crosses himself once. The scribe naturally writes, "You can't breathe. You can't think. You can only feel. There are scratches now. Blood, little rivulets, crawling down your sides as the rats scramble to find freedom. One claws into the edge of your rib cage. You feel something give, not your flesh, your will. You give up. Again, you confess, not with dignity, not even with words, just a broken string of sobs and names and apologies, and a high-pitched wailing sound that might be your soul peeling away." Walter lifts the bucket. Smoke billows out, thick and acrid. The rats leap away, one trailing blood from its tiny mouth. You want to vomit, you want to die, you want to go back to the drip, the whip, the mask, the pear, anything but this. But it's done. You lie there, shaking, skin shredded, belly torn, breath shallow. The Inquisitor kneels beside you, expression unreadable. "We believe you now," he says. You'd thank him, but your lips won't form the words. The rats are returned to their cage. Cleaned, fed, rewarded. You are not. They carry you back to the corner of the chamber. Your body a torn parchment of who you used to be, and in that haze of pain, a strange thought strikes you. This is routine for them. They do this every week, and there are worse things still. You remember hearing once just a rumour that there was a chair, a metal one, heated red hot. They'd strap you to it and let your skin decide how much truth was left in you. You try not to think about it, but the scribe is already flipping the page. And Walter, he's checking the temperature of the furnace. You lose time, not sleep time. Whole hours vanish, maybe days. It's hard to tell whether it's the blood loss, the dehydration, or just your brain deciding it's better to go offline for a bit. You drift in and out, barely tethered to your body, like a kite caught in a dead wind. The stone floor beneath you is your only constant. Its chill, its hardness, its complete indifference. You wake to the sound of metal, a low hum, a hiss, a click. Walter is back. Of course, he's always back. This time he's adjusting something large, mechanical, and thoroughly unpleasant. It looks like a chair if chairs were built by sadistic blacksmiths. The metal gleams with fresh oil. The legs are thick iron. The seat has holes, tiny punctures arranged in neat rows. You see straps, you see a crank, you see the furnace in the corner beginning to glow, and in the centre of the seat beneath it really is a brazier. The Inquisitor walks in, calm, measured. He doesn't even look at you. He goes straight to the furnace and begins stoking the coals with a long iron rod. You know what this is. You've heard the rumours. You've heard of the iron chair. Sometimes they call it the Judas chair, sometimes the Spanish seat, but it's all the same promise: sit and suffer. That's the whole concept. No frills, no theatrics, just heat, metal, and slow, total destruction. You try to speak, your lips move, but nothing emerges. No plea, no negotiation, not even a sob. You've gone hoarse. The rats did that. Your voice is somewhere in their cage, chewed apart like everything else. Walter sees you stir. He smiles gently. Oh, good. You're awake. Wouldn't want you to miss this. They lift you what's left of you and begin the ritual of strapping you in. The iron is already warm, not scalding, but enough to feel intentional. Your back arches the moment it touches the seat, but they push you down firmly, buckling your wrists, your chest, your ankles, your thighs. The seat is covered in small studs, not sharp but pointed enough that even your own weight becomes an agony. You barely registered the pain. Your nerves are fireworks going off in every direction now. But the brazier isn't lit yet. No, this is just preparation. The Inquisitor stands before you and offers something absurd. Confess, he says, and we can skip this part. You blink slowly like someone half drowned. It's a trap. Because they don't want to skip it. This part isn't about information anymore. This part is about process. And deep down, you know, even if you confess again, they'll say they just need to make sure. And so they begin. The brazier under the seat is filled with hot coals. At first, it's a gentle warmth, like sitting too close to a campfire. Then it becomes uncomfortable, then unbearable. The studs heat up first. They press into your skin like hundreds of tiny branding irons. You try to shift your weight, but you're strapped down. You can't move. And so your body does the only thing it can do. It cooks. Historians still argue whether this particular chair was widely used or just a dark legend passed between interrogators, like a family recipe. Some say the heat alone was enough to get full confessions. Others say it was only used when the prisoner refused to break, when everything else had failed. Some scholars argue it was never used at all, just a myth. But you believe. You believe because your flesh is sizzling now. You can smell yourself. That's the worst part. It's not pain, it's the realization that you're being transformed into something other, something unrecognizable. You remember the smell of roast pork in the town square during festival days. This is not unlike that, and the comparison makes you gag. Walter watches the sweat roll down your face and hit the floor. The scribe is writing, always writing. No one asks you questions anymore. That was earlier. That was the civilized part. This is just the slow punishment of existence. Your body tries to twist, instinctively recoiling from the heat, but the straps cut into your wrists. You bleed there now. Too, you'd scream, but your throat is a rag. The pain is constant. No rhythm. No breaks. No drip. Just the slow building, absolute presence of fire beneath your spine, cooking your nerves like threads being tightened past the snapping point. At some point, you pass out and wake back up. That's the curse of the chair. It doesn't kill fast. It wants you conscious. You fade and return like a broken lantern flickering in a cave. Sometimes Walter pours water on the coals to keep them from burning too quickly. Sometimes he adds oil instead to raise the heat. It's a science. It's an art. You are the canvas. You remember when you thought the Iron Maiden was the worst thing that could happen to you? That seems laughable now. That was day one. This is endgame. Eventually, mercifully, the brazier burns down. They don't unstrap you right away. They let you sit, skin fused to the metal in places. The studs have burned their patterns into your thighs and back like a mad tattoo. You are marked now. You'll always be marked. They finally release the straps. You fall forward like a pile of rags and bone. You hit the ground, and you don't move. They don't expect you to. The Inquisitor kneels again. He lifts your chin, looks into your eyes. He seems almost curious. Still in there, he asks. You don't answer, not because you can't, but because you don't know. Maybe you're still here, maybe not. Maybe part of you slipped away during the second hour. When your skin began to blister, they carry you back to the chamber, the table, the damp corner, and you hear Walter mutter something as he closes the door behind him. One more day. That phrase hits harder than the rats, the pear, or even the fire. One more day. One more, because in this place, one more is a sentence worse than death. And somehow, tomorrow, they bring out the wheel. Your dreams are broken. They don't come in full scenes anymore. Just fragments. A wheel turning. A scream that sounds like your own. A child's laughter followed by silence. You see your old village, except the church has no door, and everyone inside is wearing a mask with your face on it. Then you wake up, if you can even call it waking. It's more like surfacing from deep water. Lungs already full, head throbbing with the weight of oxygen denied for too long. Your body, what remains of it, is barely functioning. You're soaked in your own sweat, or maybe it's the damp air from the stone walls. Either way, the cold presses against your skin like guilt you can't wash off. Walter returns. He doesn't bring food today. That's how you know it's going to be worse. When they feed you, it means they want you strong enough to scream. When they don't, it means they've moved on to something beyond sound. Ready for a ride, he says, almost cheerfully. You don't respond, not out of bravery, but because your lips are cracked open like dried earth, and your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth like regret. He whistles a tune, a simple one. It might be a lullaby or a tavern song. It doesn't matter. What matters is that he's humming while unlocking your chains. You're dragged. Your legs don't work. They trail behind you like two dead siblings. The hallway is the same one you've seen 100 times, but today it feels longer, as if the building knows where you're going and wants to give you time to think about it. Then you see it, the breaking wheel, also known as the Catherine Wheel, after a saint whose bones were supposedly shattered on it, and yet, she smiled. You will not be smiling. It stands in the middle of a wide chamber, flanked by torches that throw flickering shadows on the walls. The wheel is massive, taller than any man, its wooden spokes thick and iron braced. It rotates freely, creaking like an old tree bowing to the wind. Around it are tools clubs, hammers, ropes, things you now recognise all too well. Historians still argue whether the breaking wheel was used as often as the legends suggest. Some believe it was more symbolic than practical. Others claim entire towns gathered to watch a man be turned into something unshaped, but none of that matters now. Not when you're the next name in the script. Walter doesn't waste time. He and 2 assistants lift you onto the platform. Your arms are stretched out first, tied to opposite spokes, then your legs, pulled in the same unnatural spread. You're like a grotesque starfish, nailed to a prayer wheel. The ropes cut into your wrists and ankles. Your joints pop one by one, but you don't cry out. You can't. Your voice stayed behind. Back in the iron chair, the Inquisitor steps forward. Today he wears gloves, not for hygiene, but for grip. This. He begins, speaking for the benefit of the scribe and the wall, and perhaps his own ego, is justice, and justice, like the wheel, turns. He nods. The assistants step aside. Walter picks up a hammer, not a huge one, not a comically oversized cartoon mallet, just a sturdy, well-used iron-headed club, heavy enough to break bones, light enough not to kill too quickly. The first swing comes down on your left shin. It shatters. There's no warning, just the wet crack of reality splitting into pieces. Your body convulses, trying to escape the pain, but the ropes hold. The wheel turns slightly, enough to expose your right forearm. Another swing, another break. Your mind pulls back from your body. You try to hover above, to watch from the ceiling, like a spirit loose too early, but your nerves drag you back down every time. They keep turning the wheel. Another limb, another bone. Your legs are useless now. Your arms fractured. They strike just hard enough to break, but not crush. That's the art. Too soft, and the wheel is wasted. Too hard, and you die before the final act. The scribe keeps writing. You wonder if he gets tired, if his wrist aches, if he ever dreams of blank pages. You lose count of the breaks. At some point, your body starts to fold, not from the wheel itself, but from its effect. You're sagging, your shape giving up. The ropes now pull on flesh more than structure. You've become pliable in the worst way. And still they turn. Walter's face is flushed, not from joy, but from the effort. This is work for him. Routine, no different from baking or shoemaking or tending sheep. You begin to hallucinate again. You see stars, not poetic ones, but literal pinpricks of light darting across your vision, like fireflies in reverse. You hear laughter, but it's coming from your broken elbow. You smell lavender. Lavender. Why lavender? The mind is a strange coward. It flees where it can. Then they stop. The Inquisitor walks up. He crouches beside your face. Still not enough. He sounds disappointed. It's almost funny. Almost. Then he gives the order you fear most. Reverse the wheel. They turn it back, but this time not to break more. This time to display you, because this was the wheel's other purpose: public humiliation. The twisted, broken body would be left on display, either for hours or days, in some cases, even years. Birds would come, dogs, the weather, the elements would finish what the church began. They wheel you into a smaller courtyard. A few townspeople glance up. Children stare, wide-eyed. Some run. You are no longer a person. You are artifacts, bone, bruises, silence. One old woman spits, not in hatred but in pity. You don't feel it. You feel nothing. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying part. Because for all the fire and the iron and the rodents and the whip, it is numbness that finally kills what remains of your soul. The Inquisitor speaks once more before leaving. If tomorrow brings clarity, he says, we'll consider ending it. You don't know what it is anymore. Your body, your mind, the wheel, all you know is, somewhere inside, something's whispering. Please, no more turning. But you suspect it will, because tomorrow, you hear they bring the scavenger's daughter. And unlike the wheel, she doesn't twist you apart. She folds you inward. You don't sleep. You simply lie there, suspended on the broken remains of your own skeleton. As night smothers the courtyard, the stars blink above like silent witnesses, too far away to care. A rat scurries across the cobblestones below you and pauses not in fear, but curiosity. Perhaps it recognizes you. Perhaps it remembers your belly. The wind picks up, cold, cruel, biting at the open wounds. You wish you could shiver, but even that's been denied to you. Your limbs hang at unnatural angles. The pain should be unbearable, but it's not, because now you've reached a place beyond pain. There is no pain when there is no you, but unfortunately for you, morning still comes. Walter appears at dawn, as always, with the casual indifference of a man delivering mail. Nice weather today, he murmurs, glancing up at your broken form. He doesn't ask if you're ready. He doesn't need to. He unties your limbs with care, less mercy, more maintenance, and you collapse into his arms like a sack of bent twigs. And again, you are dragged. This time, not to the wheel, not to the chair, not to the brazier or the bucket. Today, they're bringing you to her, to the scavenger's daughter, which sounds pleasant, doesn't it poetic? Even, you imagine some gentle maiden with a basket of herbs, perhaps singing to wounded knights. You could not be more wrong. The scavenger's daughter is not a person. It is a device, one that crushes inward, unlike the rack, which stretches, unlike the wheel, which pulverizes. The daughter compresses. It hugs you tightly, affectionately, like an old friend who means very, very bad things. Invented during the Tudor reign, likely by Sir Leonard Skevington, whose name was later warped into scavenger. This metal frame was designed to fold the human body into something more manageable, or rather, something less human. And that is exactly where they bring you. The chamber is smaller today, more intimate. There's no fire pit, no chorus of monks, just you, Walter, the Inquisitor, and a set of polished iron frames hanging neatly on the wall, like the world's cruelest instrument display. They lift your limp body into place. You don't resist. You couldn't if you tried. The scavenger's daughter is composed of 3 hinged iron bars, one for the neck, one for the legs, and one for the backs. The goal is simple. Fold you in half, knees forced up to your chest, spine bent, head shoved down until your chin nearly breaks your sternum, ankles and wrists locked, and then tighten. It starts slow. Walter tightens the first hinge with a ratchet. You feel your ribs begin to press together. You remember your anatomy lessons from the village priest, how the lungs need room to expand. That room is now being evicted. The second hinge compresses your thighs upward. Your hips scream, joints grind. One of your broken legs protests with a sickening pop, but the worst part is yet to come. The final hinge, the one behind your back. This one is personal, because it doesn't just press, it violates, it forces your entire frame into a shape that defies biology, architecture, and mercy. Historians still debate whether the scavenger's daughter was ever truly effective, or if its design was more symbolic, a reversal of the rack's notorious reputation. Some argue it was used only for nobles, since it left fewer marks. Others say it was rarely lethal, but psychologically catastrophic. You are now in a position you didn't think possible. Every breath is a labour strike, every heartbeat a protest. Your knees press against your ribs, your spine curves like a dying fern. Blood begins to pour from your nose, your ears, your tear ducts. This is normal. You are told that's the point. The compression forces blood out of the orifices, cleansing. Some called it. You would laugh if you could, but your diaphragm is currently arguing with your collarbone. Time stops meaning anything. Your thoughts become mechanical, repetitive, simple. I am a box. I am a box. I am a box. You chant this internally as if it's a mantra. It helps. Weirdly, gives shape to the shapeless. The Inquisitor walks around you. He doesn't speak at first, just observes then. Finally, we use this one sparingly. It's elegant. Yes, but it lacks the theatre. You understand. This isn't about spectacle. It's about collapse. He leans close. Tell us the final name. You have no idea what he's talking about. There are no names left. You gave them all. Yours, your neighbours, your dogs. You even made some up just to fill space. But he doesn't care. He wants more. There is always more. And so he gives the nod. Walter tightens the frame one last notch. You hear something inside you crack. Not a bone this time. Something else. Something central. You black out, briefly. When you return, it's to silence. You are still folded, but something's different. They've stopped tightening, because there's nowhere left to go. You are a human bundle now. Tied, bent, reduced. And the Inquisitor finally seems satisfied. He signals the release. Walter cranks the ratchets open. The hinges groan. Metal sighs. Your body unfolds like a crushed manuscript being smoothed out again. And you collapse. Not dramatically, not noisily. You simply fall into yourself. A puddle of once was. They lay you flat on the floor. Your breathing ragged and wet. Blood pools around your temples. No one speaks. Even Walter looks a little pale. Because this was too close. You were almost done. The Inquisitor kneels beside you one last time. His voice is softer now. Tomorrow, you rest. You don't trust it. You've heard that before. But he continues. We move to the final chamber. No fire, no iron, no blood. You almost believe him. Until he says it. Tomorrow, you meet the confession bell. And something in you begins to unravel all over again. Because you've heard of the bell, and it doesn't ring. It screams. You don't remember being taken back to your cell. You only remember stillness. Not peace, not silence. Just the absence of movement. Your limbs won't obey anymore. Not from the straps or brakes this time. But because your body seems to have declared independence, you're no longer in control. You are just attached to this meat frame now. Barely. A tenant squatting in your own skin. No one visits you that night. No Walter, no Inquisitor, not even a rat. And in that unnatural quiet, your mind begins to speak again against your will. It starts asking questions. Pointless ones, dangerous ones. Why you? Why this? Was it something you said? Or something you didn't? And most terrifying of all, what if this is still the easy part? You don't sleep. The darkness feels wrong. Too soft. Too forgiving. Like it's trying to prepare you for something you won't be ready for. And then, morning. No footsteps this time. No rattling keys. Just the door opening. Walter walks in with a kind of reverence. His usual half-smile is missing. He doesn't make a joke. He doesn't whistle. He just kneels beside you and says, "It's time for the bell." That name again. The confession bell. A phrase that has no right being that ominous, and yet here you are. Afraid of something that sounds like it belongs in a church tower. You are lifted more gently than usual. Carried, even. The path they take is unfamiliar. Narrower, quieter. The torchlight here is softer, and the stone underfoot less worn. You've entered the old part of the building, the one nobody talks about, and then you see it. The room, or rather the box. because this isn't a chamber in the traditional sense. It's barely wide enough to stand in. Tall, thin, made of iron and wood, built into the wall like a forgotten closet. There are no tools, no tables, no furnaces, only the bell and the chair beneath it. At first glance, the bell looks ceremonial, beautiful, even bronze polished, suspended from a beam by thick chains. It's shaped like an ordinary tower bell except for the clappers, because this bell doesn't swing. You do. It takes a moment to understand. Then Walter brings out the harness. It's leather, blackened, reinforced with iron rivets and hooks. They slip it over your torso, around your chest, shoulders, spine. It fits too well. Someone took the time to design this for the human body. You are lifted by chains attached to the harness, slowly, carefully. And then they let you drop, only a few inches, but that's all it takes, because the harness catches your body mid-fall and yanks you upward again. Snap! Your ribs scream, your shoulders lurch, your spine protests like a snapped bowstring. They let you hang for a breathless moment, then do it again. And again, this is the confession bell. You are not struck by anything. You become the clapper. Your body is the battering ram, now slamming into its own bones, its own nerves, its own limits. They don't even ask questions at first, because the bell is the question, and your screams, those are the answers. Historians still debate whether such a device truly existed. Some claim it's apocryphal, a metaphor gone literal. Others describe variations, a suspended torture frame, used to rattle out truth like coins from a shaken pouch. But every account agrees on one thing. It was intimate, personal, not about spectacle, but about breaking rhythm, turning the act of questioning into a ritual. The Inquisitor stands nearby, arms crossed. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. You're already confessing things you didn't even know you remembered. You tell them about a childhood prank, a stolen piece of bread, a lie you told when you were 7. Names dozens poured from your mouth like water from a cracked jug. Some are real, some are dreams, some may not even be human. You confess to being afraid, which is maybe the only honest thing left in you. They let you down briefly, then hoist you again, this time. They twist you mid-air before dropping. The motion turns your spine like a wet rope. Something slips between your vertebrae. You bite your tongue so hard you taste copper and shame. The room spins. Not metaphorically, actually spins. Because the harness is on a swivel now. They raise you slowly, very high, then drop. Your body spins as it falls, twisting, slamming, jerking into place as the harness catches. You almost admire the engineering. Almost, by now. The bell itself is vibrating with your motion. Each fall shakes the beam. Each impact rings out a dull, sick clang of human and metal becoming one. You are no longer being interrogated. You are being rendered. Emotionally, physically, spiritually. The Inquisitor leans in, whispering into your ear. We call it the bell because it tolls only once. He pauses. And you are that toll. You don't know how long it lasts. 20 minutes, 2 hours, a year. Eventually, your body no longer responds. You twitch instead of thrash, moan instead of scream. Your head hangs. Your eyes refuse to open. Walter lowers you gently. You expect to be carried again. But no, they let you crawl. It's a gesture of false mercy, letting you drag your own body across the cold floor, nails scraping, legs trailing. You leave a trail behind you of blood, of sweat, of you. The cell is the same, but it feels different, because this time, you're not afraid of what's next. You're afraid there is no next, that this is just it now, that the bell was the final question that you answered. And still, they want more. The door closes, and you hear Walter whisper outside, "One final morning, then we unmask it all." You don't know what that means, but you hear the word mask, and your stomach lurches, because deep down, you remember, there was one device left, the one they never use casually, the one they save for truth, the one they call their iron visage, and something in you begins to cry. But not from pain, from memory, because you've seen it before. The final morning doesn't begin with pain, it begins with clarity, which is somehow worse. Your body is no longer screaming, not because it's healed, but because it's quieted, like a battlefield where the last soldier has dropped their sword and simply sat down. The nerves have gone numb, the bones ache, but only when you remember they exist. There is no hunger, no thirst, just space. It's a strange thing, to be alive and not inhabiting yourself. Walter enters silently. No bucket, no chains, no cheerful whistling. Instead, he carries something wrapped in velvet. He kneels, lays it down, unwraps it, and there it is, the iron visage. You remember it now. You saw it once, long ago before all this, before your world became stone and steel and slow. Meticulous despair, it was whispered about, like a ghost in the dark corners of every village. The mask that revealed everything, not to the world, but to the wearer. It was never meant for the crowd. It was meant for you. It's not grotesque. At first glance, no spikes, no blades, just a human face carved from dark, burnished metal, expressionless, a serene, almost divine calm baked into its every feature. But the eyes are hollow, deep. The mouth is a barely open line. The cheeks curve inward, subtly just enough to remind you it was built for compression. It's heavy, and it fits perfectly. They lower it over your head like a priest crowning a penitent. The interior is lined with thin metal strips, adjustable screws and pressure plates. No room to breathe, no room to lie. The moment it locks, you understand. This isn't a mask. This is confession incarnate. Each screw tightens a memory. Each plate presses a secret. It doesn't burn, it doesn't tear. It simply insists. And your mind begins to peel. Walter steps away. The Inquisitor enters one final time, standing before your seated form like a judge awaiting the defendant's final collapse. "Let it speak," he says softly, and the mask begins to hum. There's no sound in the room, and yet you hear it, a tone not through your ears, but in your skull, a resonance, like a bell made from you. And then the visions begin. You see yourself. Not now, then moments. All of them. You see the day you stole from the baker's cart and blamed the crippled boy. You see the girl you loved, the one whose heart you cracked with silence. You see your mother, the night she begged you to come home early and you didn't. You see 100 tiny cruelties you buried so deep you believed they were never real. And now they rise, because the iron visage doesn't reveal your crimes. It reveals your complicity. You were never innocent, not even before this dungeon. You were always, in small ways, cruel. It presses tighter. You try to scream, but the mask holds your jaw gently shut. All you can do is feel. Feel the way your cowardice disguised itself as politeness. Feel how your apathy became someone else's tragedy. Feel how you watched, again and again, and chose comfort over action. Historians still argue whether such a mask ever truly existed. Some say it was symbolic, used not for torture, but for repentance. Others believe it to be a psychological weapon, a precursor to modern sensory deprivation. There are records of similar devices in various regions: Venice, Seville, even Prague, designed to confront the wearer with mirrored guilt. But all agree it never left the one who wore it unchanged. The Inquisitor walks behind you now. You feel his presence like a storm on the horizon. "You were never here to confess your crimes," he says. "You were here to meet your reflection." The mask tightens again. You see not what you did, but what you could have been. A friend you pushed away, a stranger you didn't help, a truth you chose not to say. This isn't physical pain anymore. This is reversal. The iron visage turns you inward, folds you mentally the way the scavenger's daughter folded you physically. You try to close your eyes. You can't. The mask holds them open. You're forced to watch as every version of you that could have chosen better vanishes, and only this one you remains. Then the final screw turns. There's a sound, soft, almost a sigh, and the pressure stops. The mask is removed. You slump forward. Your body doesn't bleed, doesn't cry, but your mind is shattered. The Inquisitor doesn't ask anything. He doesn't need to. You've given him everything, not the names, not the plots, but the truth. that you were always, in small ways, exactly the kind of person who would end up here. And he nods. Walter touches your shoulder. You can go now. They open the door. Not a cell, a real one. The outside. Fresh air curls around your broken body like grace you no longer believe in. You're lifted by arms not unfriendly and placed just outside the gates. No crowd, no cart, just dirt, sun, birds. You breathe, and somehow it hurts. You survive the rack, the wheel, the pear, the rats. But this last thing, it unmade you. You are not who you were. And maybe that's the point. And now, as the dust settles and the door to that dreadful chamber closes behind us, let's let the noise of that world dissolve into silence. The fire is gone, the iron is still, and you bruised, bent, bewildered, are somehow still breathing. Let your shoulders drop now. Let your jaw unclench. It's okay. You're here. And the worst of it is behind you, even if it echoed more loudly in your mind than you expected. You see, the truth of these old tortures isn't always in the physical pain. They were designed to linger. Long after the bruises faded, to make men fear themselves, to plant doubt so deeply it outlived the scars. But tonight, we've made it through, together. Take a deep breath now. Feel the weight of your body against the bed. Feel how safe you are in this moment, in this time. There are no iron chairs here, no wheels, no masks, only the sound of your own breathing, the hum of the fan, maybe the softness of the pillow cradling your thoughts. Let them drift. Let the tension slide away like water from a stone. You're free now, truly, and tomorrow, when the sun returns and the birds sing again, you'll still be here, whole. So sleep well, dear traveller. Sleep deep and long and without fear, because the only bells that ring now are for rest.